Hi everyone, it's Arsh Ellahi, and in today's session we're going to be talking about the future of HMOs post-COVID-19. So as we're recording this, we are just coming out of lockdown, and I've seen a massive shift in the HMO market, and predominantly we're going to be talking about student HMOs and what the future holds for them and the reasons why I've come to the conclusions that I've come to. Before we do that, I want to say a quick thank you and a quick hello to all the new subscribers that have come to the channel. Hopefully you're enjoying it, hopefully you're enjoying the content, and more importantly, if you're completely new to the channel, please press subscribe or click on the notification bell below and you'll get a notification every time that I upload a new video. So getting straight into it. So student HMOs, let's have a look at the student market in general. Now, the way that the student market works in general is that the academic year generally is from circa September to around June/July. So it's pretty much a 10-month academic year. And with a student landlord, what they would normally do, they would start, let's just use this year for argument's sake. We're in 2020. So for students that were looking to go to university in September or October 2020, landlords would have started advertising their properties in February/March 2020 with a view of trying to attract students to secure their property for the next academic year. So from September 20 going up to circa June 2021. So hopefully that's been made it quite easy. So that's their time frame. So the landlords start advertising quite early on, letting agents start advertising quite early on. Now, normally that would be fine. They start advertising in February, between February, March, April and May. They'll get lots of inquiries with a view of securing a let to their property. And that means that then they've secured the let for the next academic year, which means completely hands-free. They've got income pretty much generated for the next 10 months. Now, let's go through some of the benefits of holding a student HMO. One of the biggest benefits is 10 months pretty much of guaranteed income. Now, students generally pay their rent out of their student loans, or they'll be paid by the parents. Now, these are two quite secure incomes. Now, the student loan naturally gets paid by a semester, which is generally a 3 or 4 month period. So the students will always pay 3 or 4 months rent in advance. Now, as a result of accepting a student, and I'd say, I'm not generalizing here, but a high proportion of them have got parents who are financially backing them in the background, and as a result, they'll also guarantee the rent. So if the student does default on the rent, the landlord can then go to the parent and say, guys, okay, your son or daughter has not paid this month's rent. As a guarantor, it's now your liability to pay that rent. And because the parent will generally either be in full-time occupation or there'll be a homeowner, you can put the claim against them if you have to go down that route. But generally, the parents will cough up and probably give the kid a slap around the head later. So that's why lots of people prefer student HMOs. That's why people buy properties surrounding, within a mile parameter of universities. And if you are looking to buy a HMO, that is a tip for you, is that look at certain segments. So I always look at universities, I look at hospitals, and I look at city centres or town centres and try and pick properties around those three. The reason being is that demand is always going to be high in those locations. So there's a top tip for you. Now, other benefits from student HMOs, yes, you've got guaranteed income for 10 months. You've got guarantors, and you've got pretty much good income from the tenants or their guarantors. And the other thing is it's quite secure. So, year in, year out, that if your property's in a good location and it's up to a decent calibre or good standard, providing it's within that walking parameter or within close proximity to a university, and if you can get in contact with the university, like the student unions, etc., and say, guys, okay, I've got this property every year, would you guys like to fill it? And the agent is not a letting agent, then it becomes a student union, and there are lots of universities that do that. So the campuses actually become like your letting agent, and as a result of the people going to apply to that university, the campus then say, okay, you're applying for the property, you're applying for this university, have you ever considered accommodation close to this university? And here we go. So they match the two together. So that's another tip for you. So letting agents and also student unions and campuses actually act as agents for you. So they're the benefits of having student HMO. Now, one of the negatives from having student HMOs is that there's a stereotype that students are going to have parties, they're going to have, they're going to not look after the house as well as perhaps a professional HMO would be. And then so it's going to get a lot more wear and tear. So there's some of the negatives from it. One of the other positives for running a student HMO, should I say, is that the students generally pay their own bills. So with a normal professional HMO, the landlord will pay the council tax, water rates, electricity, gas, potentially broadband, cleaner and all that kind of stuff. With a student HMO, students are exempt from council tax. And then generally, because all the students are there, they have to share the bills between themselves. So they share the council electricity, gas, water rates, broadband. They don't really have a cleaner. They tend to clean between themselves. I'm talking from my experience of being a student. I went to university in Cheltenham. So that's the pros and cons of having a student HMO. Now, let's refer this back to 2020. Now, we've seen lots of changes. The year 2020 will be known as the year that made the world stand still. And that's exactly what it did, put us all in lockdown. It made us all stay inside and say, so we can't go anywhere, we can't do anything. But it's also had a negative impact on lots of industries, and we'll talk about universities now. Now, for the students that were doing their A-levels, they haven't been able to get the A-level results, or now they're working on predicted grades. Now, I've talked to lots of universities, talked to lots of lecturers about this and got their feedback on this before I've done this video. So concerns is that lots of students are going to be working on predicted grades. Some students will get better than expected, some will get worse than expected, or not as well as expected. And so that kind of puts them in a predicament. Now, lots of universities, following the government guidelines, are still concerned about putting students in and holding seminars. So if you've been to university, you'll see that you'll sit in quite a large classroom or quite a lecture theatre. And you could very easily be in a room with the best part of 100 people, depending on the lecture and depending on the topic. Now, lots of universities are saying and taking the guidance is that we don't want to put lots of people in the room, therefore we're going to start to run online courses, or we're going to run the programme as an online programme. Now, they're doing that for the first semester. So first semester generally is around from September till about January time. So September 20 to January 2021. So that leaves a bit of an issue, because lots of students now are thinking, well, do I want to go to university for this year and not experience the full university life? So for argument's sake, the freshers' parties and all the other things that go with going to university. Some people are looking to defer the year. A lot of people are looking to defer the year so that they don't go to university this year, but they'll go to university next year. Now, that causes a problem, because first of all, universities are going to have a lower demand in their universities or their colleges for this academic year, but it will also put a stress on universities for the following year. So they may only have half the applicants for this year, but next year they may have double the applicants, which means that are they going to be able to cope with that level of demand? Now, taking this back to property, it's going to have the same effect. So what's going to happen to all these student landlords that were expecting high demand for their accommodation? Because let's face it, if they're reliant on students to accommodate their properties, and now the student demand isn't there just as a result of students not wanting to either come to university or not wanting to pay for the periods that they're not going to be at university. If they don't really have to be in university until January, is there any reason for them to pay the rent from September to January? So that's my initial question. And as a parent, if my daughters were going to university, these are the things that would be going through my mind, is that should they study at home initially for the first few months and then go back to university as they would from January? And I'm sure there'll be lots of accommodation available for them in January for the semester and then moving forward. But from a landlord's point of view, now, if I've got a property and I was expecting it to be occupied from June and taking us, or June, July, or August, or whenever they start their tenancy from, where does that leave me? I've now got a vacant property. Now, if that property is now not going to be occupied until January, do I A, leave it empty and take into consideration that it's going to be costing me council tax, water rates, electricity, gas, plus the mortgage payments, which means that I'm going to be making a loss? Or do I plan B, which is more sensible plan, offer the rent to the student at a discounted rate, saying, okay, I appreciate that you're not coming until January, but we still need you to secure the property and we'll let you take the property on for, let's say, half the price. And again, these are just rough indications and these are just estimates. So you can take the property that way. At least you know that when you come in January, you've definitely got a property secured. It's half price, so you're not paying the full amount and you still get access to the property if and when you want to use it. Or do you alternatively said, I'll tell you what, we're not going to let to students from July to January, and what we'll do, we'll run the property as a professional HMO or as a working HMO. And that means that basically they're going to have to change their model slightly, because with a professional or working HMO, they're going to have to include the council tax, water rates, electricity, gas, broadband. So it's slightly against the grain as to what they've previously been used to. So these are things that they're going to have to take into consideration. If they do nothing, they're going to lose money. Now, I've been observing the market. I'm always observing the market, but I've been observing the market more closer over the last few months. I've noticed that around university towns and cities, more and more HMOs are vacant. Now, I use examples from Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, Sunderland, all large university cities. And lots of properties surrounding these universities are still sat empty as I record this in pretty much the end of June. Are we in June or July? Yeah, the end of, where are we? We're at the end of June 2020. Apologies, completely forgot where we are. So that's an interesting key indicator for me. Properties are still vacant in June. Normally they would have been snapped up in January, February, March, April. No later than that, because people will be getting the results in July/August. And by that point, all the properties should have already been occupied. So there is still time. I'm not saying that it's all bad. There is still time. So when people get the results in July, August, that people may have a sudden surge. But how does that leave landlords now? If you're a landlord and you've got student accommodation, would you slightly be worried right now that your property is vacant? So if someone came to you and said, well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate that you were previously pitching for students, but I'm a professional, would you let me use your property? Would you say yes to it right now? Because the uncertainty in the marketplace. And this is something just literally for you to consider. I'm trying to adapt your mind or adapt your mindset to all the different possibilities that could happen as a result of COVID, as a result of lockdown, 2020. So there we have it. What we're also experiencing is also lots of landlords now, as a result of COVID, as a result of Brexit, as a result of Section 24, lots of landlords have said, you know what, to be fair, enough's enough. I thought Brexit was one bad thing, then COVID's come along and given me another kick in the teeth. And now as a result of Section 24 as well, where I'm not going to be able to claim my interest rates or my mortgage interest relief. That's also the final nail in the coffin. So lots of landlords are selling up, and we're seeing this as another indicator by lots of HMOs that are coming for sale, and we're finding that they're all vacant HMOs, which means that they've struggled to let for whatever reason. So lots of things to take into consideration from today's session. Hopefully you've enjoyed the session. Now, if you like the thought of, or you like what you've heard and you want to follow me on any social media, please feel free to do so. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also Twitter under the name of Arsh Ellahi. I should also mention that I've got a free podcast that we release every Tuesday. It's called The Property Rebel. You can find it on iTunes, you can find it on Google Podcasts, you can find us on Spotify and Stitcher, as well as lots of other platforms, but they're the four main ones. And then finally, I'd like to invite you to download the Property Investor app. So I've created the UK's first property investment platform, which is all for property investment deals. So if you're looking for a property investment deal, or if you've got a deal to sell yourself, we can upload the deal for you. So you can go to www.propertyinvestorapp.co.uk. Failing that, you can also go to the App Store on your phone. So whether you're on iOS or Android, go to the App Store, type in Property Investor, and you'll see the app there, and it's completely free for you to download. It takes 2 minutes to register, and you can see all of our deals there. We've got approximately 200 properties on the app, and these include below market value deals, rent to rent deals, lease option deals, commercial deals, development opportunities, just to name a few. But on that note, guys, I wish you well. Hopefully you've enjoyed the session. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a comment below. Please feel free to like and share the video. And in these uncertain times, I wish you all well and to be safe. And I'll speak to you all very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.